Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mings, and today is a very special day because today we say happy birthday, Norway. Yeah, that's right. Today is the 17th of May, Norway's National Day, where we celebrate the founding of our constitution. Of course, for me, it's the 16th of May. I'm recording this one day in advance because by the time this video goes up tomorrow, I will be out grilling, barbecuing, and celebrating with my friends on this most glorious holiday. It is unlike any other day of the year. In fact, I figured I'd prepare a bit of a presentation for you guys to show you what the 17th of May is all about, because it is quite unique. First of all, Norwegians dress up in very peculiar outfits. The women wear something called a bunad. It's a very pretty dress. It varies a little bit depending on where in Norway you are. And the men also have bunads. They're not as common, but they also vary wildly depending on where in Norway you are. Every region has like its own distinct bunad, but they share some commonalities. For women, they usually have like a white undershirt and like a dress. For the men, they usually have high white socks and a vest and sometimes a hat. But the actual design of the bunad can vary wildly. Not everyone has a bunad because they're very expensive and difficult to make. But if you go outside in the streets on the 17th of May, you will see a good amount of people walking around in these. And they look very pretty. I always think they look very interesting. And of course, we eat traditional Norwegian staple food like wienerpølse I brød. Not hot dogs, they're not hot dogs. Very different from hot dogs. They sell these at every stand, at every street corner. You'll see a bunch of Norwegians going around eating these things. And of course, we also eat waffle. And sometimes we put brunost on the waffle. This is a Norwegian classic, tastes really good. And of course, you can't have a 17th of May without kroneis, a classic. You know, especially on a hot day, you gotta eat this. But mostly what we're known for, and I think what you'll see a lot of, is a bunch of Norwegians walking outside, waving their Norwegian flags, singing their songs, and playing instruments. It's a very, very nice day. And if you live in the capital of Oslo, where this footage is from, the goal is to reach the royal palace, where you will see the king and the royal family waving at their balcony. They will stand outside all day waving to the crowds. I imagine they must be pretty tired at the end of it. Sadly though, our king is not in the best of health this 17th of May. He was hospitalized last week. He's very old. So a lot of people think he may not be out on the balcony this year, which would be a travesty. So please send some thunder energy to our king, and let's wish him a speedy recovery. However, ladies and gentlemen, on this most glorious of Norwegian holidays, I thought I'd show you guys a very special game. And what better way to celebrate Norway's National Day than to take a look at an Inkugark game. Yes, that's right, Inkugark. We haven't covered Inkugark on this channel for quite a while. And I think that is a travesty, because Inkugark is kind of like the Magnus Carlsen of the Advanced Wars community. He is the best player in the world currently, and he also is Norwegian. I know I say this a lot, but I think it's kind of interesting that the best Advanced Wars player on the league is Norwegian. He's also a very nice guy, like him a lot. And he's been kind of dominating the #1 spot on the ladder for quite a while. I think he took it like a few months back, and no one's been able to knock him off it since. Ghost 7 occasionally comes close, but he can't seem to get over the 650 mark. Whenever he does, he either loses a match or Inkugark just rises higher. Inkugark, I believe, was the first player to reach 1700 MMR in a Monsters by Web, which is quite a feat. It's kind of like these two kind of sit leagues above everyone else. Although there is a player with a Chinese symbol that is coming pretty close. Maybe he'll be able to overtake Inkugark in time. But so far, Inkugark has been dominating the #1 spot for months, and it doesn't look like anyone will be able to knock him off at any time soon. However, today, Inkugark is playing a very strong player by the name of Profeta. You may remember him too if you've been around this channel for a while. Both of them have been in the Grandmasters Live tournament. Inkugark was in Season 2, I think Profeta was in Season 1 and 3, or maybe it was Season 2 or Season 3, I don't remember. But both of these players are very strong, I know them very well, solid players all around. Profeta has a YouTube channel where he casts matches in Spanish, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, they're just terrifyingly strong players, both of them. And this is sure to be an absolute banger. I'm telling you, this match is chaotic with a big C. It's from the Discord Cup, I believe. And it is a high funds match, which means that both players get 2,000 income per property instead of the normal 1,000. So this is going to get chaotic very quickly. It's going to be very big armies on both sides right here. The map is called Coat of Arms. And the thing about Coat of Arms is that it is a map that seems very open, but it has some very interesting elements to it. We have these bases right here, which are infantry only, at least at first. They can only produce infantry and mechs because, of course, there's a river around them and a shoal here. And that means that you can't produce ground units, not until you get a lander out. And the lander is covered by the enemy's pre-deployed cruiser. So you can't, or sorry, the harbor, I mean. You need to get a lander out of this harbor, or you can capture this harbor in the back right here. And once you get a lander out here, you can start transporting ground units around here. If you can secure the shoal, that is. Because, of course, you have the enemy base very close to this base that can only produce infantry. So it'll become a struggle over these two harbors right here. And if you can secure the harbor on your side, you can start producing landers and start transporting units over the shoal. But until then, you'll mostly be stuck building infantry and mechs. You will actually see a lot of mechs in this matchup, which is a rarity when it comes to high funds. And there usually will be two big engagements, one here and then one here. And then as the map goes into the late game, you'll see like very big engagements taking place in the center right here. It's a wild map. You have a bunch of islands with comm towers, airports, and properties, lots of transports and black boat play, lots of bombers and copters. And because of the way these harbors are situated, you may even see battleships and carriers. Because, of course, you build a carrier here, you can lock down a big section of the map. You can kind of create a no-fly zone, which is very effective because bombers and battlecopters are so prevalent in high funds. You want to build a lot of them. So, a very interesting map. When I first saw it, I was like, yeah, I definitely have to cast a match from this particular map. It looks like a lot of fun. However, the matchup is also very interesting. We are witnessing right here something that we don't normally see. We have Max versus Drake. Now, normally, Drake is one tier below Max. It's not a very common matchup at all. But this is high funds, so I believe they're both tier 2 in high funds. Global damage is a lot better in high funds because it comes in more often, there's bigger armies on each side, and it drains a lot more funds. And I think, like, at some point, it almost seems to come in every other turn because of all the engagements that take place. So when you play Max against Drake, you are on the clock. You need to make aggression happen. You need to make sure that you don't get whittled down, because the longer the match goes on, the stronger Drake's becomes. Every typhoon or tsunami that comes in will just take a little bit of steam out of Max's push. And if Max doesn't get the job done, I'd say by the third typhoon, that's when Max will really start crumbling. If a fourth typhoon comes in, I would probably give the match to Drake, unless Max is greatly ahead. But he has about 3 typhoons to take down Drake. And at that point, he just won't have an army left to challenge him. Another thing that is a big factor is the rain. You can't overlook the rain. It's not as good as snow, but rain greatly slows down vehicles on plains and forest. And there's a lot of plains and forest on this particular map. So that's definitely something that you got to keep in mind. But furthermore, the calcs in this matchup is quite interesting. I spent some time looking at calcs, and as you can see, Drake gets a big bonus to his naval defense, 25%. He's actually buffed on a once for a spy web. He has more defense than he has in the base game, which is only 10%. But this actually ends up mattering a lot. Like, for example, Max bombers versus Drake black boats and landers cannot one-shot, even with a comm tower. 92 to 99% damage. It actually ends up mattering quite a lot. As long as the lander and black boat wasn't chipped in a prior engagements, Max cannot one-shot without a power or a second comm tower, and this map only has one comm tower, so you can never one-shot. Furthermore, if you stack Drake's defense with that of a harbor, you put a battleship, for example, on a harbor, Max almost can't scratch it. His battlecopters barely deal 1 HP of damage to it. His bomber only deals 4. Now, 4 HP of damage is a lot on a battleship, but considering this is a Max bomber we're talking about here, it normally, like, one-shots naval units. This is pretty big. So this naval defense actually will come into play here. It normally doesn't. Drake gets picked because of his global damage. But here, we will actually see naval units, and this Drake defense will become an issue. So I thought that the calcs were kind of interesting. I'm wondering if maybe that's one of the reasons why Drake gets that 25% bonus, because it seems like such an odd number to give him, you know? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough introduction for now. I say we get into this match, shall we? So down in the red trunks in the bottom left corner, we have Inkugark playing as Max. Up in the green trunks in the top right, we have Profeta playing as Drake. And of course, a lot of people will wonder, why does Profeta begin with the harbor already captured? This is the first turn advantage in high funds. In high funds, the first turn advantage is more severe because there's bigger numbers on each side. So usually we'll see 1 infantry on player 1 side and 2 infantry on player's 2 side and an additional property. So that means the Profeta will get a 2k income advantage on the first turn until Inkugark is able to capture this property back. There are also labs on this map, only a solitary lab. If there are no HQs, the lab acts as the HQ. It's just a slightly more shitty HQ with no income and one less defense star, pretty much. But you can see that the labs are pretty exposed, so if your opponent really pushes you out of the way, then you might actually not be able to win. They can just take your lab and call it a day. Now, Drake also gets that +1 movement on naval units, which you can see right here. Allows him to move through the reef a little bit quicker. I don't really think it comes in on this map, but it is something that he has. It might come in other situations maybe, but not this one. It's the defense primarily that will benefit him. So both players start out with a cruiser here. This cruiser primarily serves to ward away early air aggression, and it also forces the transports to dart around their range a little bit. Cruisers are pretty bad. They get taken out by battlecopters. Even Drake battlecopters can take on a max cruiser. They're supposed to be water anti-air, but I don't know why they take so much damage from battlecopters. It's just really stupid. They fixed this in Dual Strike and Days of Ruin, but Advanced Wars by awbw uses Advanced Wars 2 cruisers, sadly, so they're just incredibly bad. But when they're pre-deployed, they're essentially free, and there's an argument for maybe not wanting to attack the enemy's cruiser, because you give them a lot of power charge. I mean, they're worth 18,000. That's 2 entire bars if you kill a cruiser, so you may not want to kill it right away, because especially Inkugark doesn't want to kill it right away unless he has to, because he'll give a very quick Typhoon to his opponent if he does. But of course, at some point the cruiser has to die, because it's very annoying. It prevents battlecopters from flying over here. It prevents the transport copter from just running over here. Both players have to spend a turn moving it 1 square to the right or left so that they can dart over here. They would have loved to put the transport copter on these shoals, but of course these cruisers make that very difficult. So yeah, both players just going for their early properties. Black boats should be built really early on here. We'll see black boats from both players, because of course you have these 3 islands right here, one with an airport, one with a comm tower, one with a city. You want to get all of them. You can send a transport copter all the way over here, but it'll take many turns to reach. So it's just better to spend 7,500 on a black boat and just call it a day. Black boats though, especially for Inkugark, do serve some purpose in that they can repair and, most importantly, restore fuel. Keep in mind, Profeta, every time he pops that Typhoon or that Tsunami, he will drain half of the fuel from all enemy forces. For ground units, this usually isn't a big deal because they have enough fuel to last until they die. But for air units, this is pretty severe, especially fighters and bombers who consume 5 fuel per turn. They can very easily crash if they run out of fuel. So having those black boats around to refuel that low fuel bomber and fighter can actually be a pretty good maneuver. So pay attention to those black boats. They're actually going to become pretty important. There's a third neutral base for both players in the middle that needs to be captured, which means this is a 3-base map. And I think that's one of the reasons why Profeta picked Drake. He's very strong on 3-base maps. However, there are a lot of air units on this map as well, so you know, you get some global damage, but you sacrifice those air units, especially considering you're up against max air units, which are even more devastating. So that's going to be very tricky for Profeta to deal with. He will not have the air advantage, but again, that global damage is so nice. You don't have to think about it. You just click the button whenever it's available, and you will just withering away 20% of the opponent's force and slows them down greatly for 1 turn. It is so nice. So both players now just grabbing their island properties, getting as much income as they possibly can. You can see both players are forced to build mechs out of these bases because the base just won't let them build ground units early on. Profeta now going for this harbor. Inkugark also going for this harbor as well. It'll be in their best interest to try and steal that harbor away from their opponent at some point so they can get so they can get control of the area, maybe build a lander, maybe a battleship or a carrier. If you build if Profeta builds a carrier here and moves it over here, he can airport lock Inkugark. It's a big investment, and if Inkugark prepares a bomber, he can kill the carrier. But definitely pay attention to that harbor, because it can have some very interesting plays. So now Inkugark capturing his middle base. He's now on 3 bases. Sends his black boat back here to fetch the infantry. And both players continue to go about their day. Just building mechs for now. It's the best thing they can do with this base. It's better to get mechs than nothing. You can use the mechs to ward away some anti-air. There's some mountains here that they can place the mechs in. It's not bad. Battlecopters coming out. Each player will build a lot of battlecopters. You can see even Profeta's building battlecopters here. Because even though they have minus 20% firepower, they're still really good. He's also incorporating some artillery to scare away this cruiser on the harbor. Pretty smart from Inkugark, using the cruiser to block the harbor. Sending his transport copter over as well. Just moving those mechs out. Again, it's so funny to see mechs in high funds. Because, like, you just normally don't see them at all. But on this map, both players are kind of forced to build them, so you'll see a lot of mechs, which is interesting. I guess Operation Mech Storm will approve this match. Alright. Both players now starting to capture all the properties on their side. We're not going to have many neutral properties for many more turns. Both players just gearing up, building a lot of battlecopters, building a lot of mechs, anti-air, tanks. Not a lot of high-tech units coming out of both players at the moment. They have a lot of bases and airports to spread their income out of. So we're not going to see a lot of heavy units until more property starts to get captured. But you can see both players are already nearing it on 40k income on day 8. So we know it's high funds. Here you can actually see Profeta attacking the cruiser with the battlecopter 4-5. This is how bad cruisers are against battlecopters in Advanced Wars 2. Drake Copter versus Max Cruiser. And they trade favorably, considering this is a unit costing half of the cruiser. It's pretty pathetic, honestly. I really wish Advanced Wars by Web would take the dual strike cruisers or the Days of Ruin cruisers, but oh well, I kind of understand that they don't. I really do. Alright. Profeta has to be careful here, because Max has a big advantage in the early game. He builds a Neo tank. That's smart. Against Max, a way you can kind of ward off his tank aggression is to tank up early. Get that medium or Neo tank out to ward away those scary Max tanks. Even though they have 20% extra firepower, they're not really going to be able to do much against a medium or Neo tank due to the way percentages work in this game. If your percentage is low, it doesn't matter if you increase it by 20%, it's still going to be low, right? So tanking up, definitely very smart. Profeta probably want to get some Mega tanks out at some point to ward away Max, Mega, and Neo tanks. Very important to do that. But Inkugark is also careful not to overextend and lose forces. He knows that he needs to sweep Profeta off the board with a well-timed Max Force or Max Blast. That is what he wants to do. Profeta now taking care of Inkugark's cruiser. Profeta still has his cruiser. It'll probably die at some point, but he keeps it on the harbor for now, where it enjoys that 55% extra defense, making it very hard. Even a bomber, I think, from Max will only deal about 50% damage to this cruiser and take some counterattack damage. So it's not in Inkugark's best interest to attack this cruiser at the moment. And in fact, if Profeta wants to, he can probably keep this cruiser here for a while. Now Profeta has to build a fighter. Always sucks to build fighters as Drake, but you kind of have no choice once Max starts pumping up the bombers. At some point, there's just a limit to what anti-air can do against bombers. They're just not that great. Bombers can just outmaneuver them, outrange them. Not to mention, bombers can also kill anti-air, especially with a Max Blast or Max Force up. They're just not going to be able to do that much. Alright. Inkugark doing a little bit of boost to Renos. That's good. So many mechs on this map. I love it. It's great. It's so unorthodox to see all these mechs in high funds. But you can see Inkugark is sniffing out a weakness in his opponent's formation. Looks like he intends to strike at this area. He's got a lot of tanks lined up, bombers to match it. And again, the Profeta actually building a cruiser. Ladies and gentlemen, I never thought I'd see it, but he actually is building a cruiser. He has to, though, because the bomber, Inkugark wants to take this harbor. This is what he really wants. Inkugark wants to take this harbor. He wants to control this shoal, and he wants to start transporting land units. Profeta wants to hold on to the harbors. He actually builds a cruiser. I think this is the first time I've seen a cruiser being built in competitive Advanced Wars. But now that he has 2 of them, it means that this bomber can't attack this cruiser without getting shot at back. So actually not a bad move for Profeta, considering he is playing Drake. His cruisers are actually a little bit less shit than the normal cruisers. Not by much, but by a little bit. But you can see he's very careful here. Inkigark is sniffing out any weaknesses in his information, and you can be sure that if there is a weakness, Inkigark will spot it. He's just that damn good. In comes the fighter. Inkigark now applying a little bit of pressure on this contested property right here. We'll see if Profeta will be sacking a couple of his own infantry to interrupt that cap. Now Inkigark is also placing his tank on this empty missile silo here. The mechs are slowly marching forward. Looks like Inkigark definitely wants to attack this area. I'm wondering if Profeta might deploy a battleship on this harbor to ward away this aggression. Would be a pretty costly investment, but it might put a stop to Inkigark's push, although Inkigark does have that bomber, which makes that pretty scary. But yeah, Inkigark is the one who needs to make things happen in this match. Profeta can sit back, he can twiddle his thumbs, and just let the armies build up, enjoying that global damage. He doesn't need to come to Inkigark. Inkigark has to come to him, and he knows that. But yeah, he has to send an infantry to interrupt that cap. He doesn't want Inkigark to get an income lead over him. Even though, as Drake, he is okay with having an income deficit, because the global damage will swing the match in his favor. Look at all these mechs, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful to see so many mechs in high funds? What an unusual sight. Inkigark smells blood, ladies and gentlemen. He's like, ooh, okay, here we go. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. 7-5, not shabby. Not shabby at all. This is a max bomber with the comm tower we're talking about here. So look at that. Can he follow it up with battlecopters? Battlecopters don't do much against cruisers, but look at this. He decides to pop his max force. That didn't take long at all. My goodness. Here we go, battlecopter. Ooh, that's enough to kill. That's enough to kill. Now Inkigark wants that harbor. He wants that harbor. Ooh, devastating attack from Inkigark right here. He saw a weakness and he went for it immediately. Kills the anti-air with the battlecopter. Comes with the tank. Kills the battlecopter. Ignores the artillery for now. He's systematically wiping out Profeta's anti-air, which is actually pretty smart. This means his bombers and battlecopters can go uncontested. Profeta has 2 more anti-air though lurking. So I don't know if it's going to be enough. The mechs are arriving to actually sort of be a little bit meaningful here. But you can see Inkigark is not making the mistake of trying to attack both sides. He attacks on his strong side, he stays back on his weak side. It's what D just calls the rubber band, you know? When you stretch out the rubber band, you don't want to try and stretch it in 2 directions. You stretch it in one area, you have to let it go in another. You don't attack 2 sides at once. Inkigark knows this well. You can see he's practicing. It's defending on this area, it's defending on this side, he's attacking on this side. And it's quite a devastating push too. Of course, what happens after you push into Drake's forces? That's right, Typhoon. Ay, look at that value tick down. Ooh, that is scary. That is absolutely scary. And here comes the counterattack from Profeta. It's a devastating one by the looks of it. Fighter comes in. Ooh, Max Fighter goes down. That is scary. And of course, the rain is the cherry on top. Makes it so hard for Inkigark to push forward. Of course, his air units aren't faced by the rain, but his ground units are not. And here, he's actually shifting a lot of his southern forces up to the north because he realizes he needs more units to defend against Inkigark's push right here. And Inkigark actually has a lot of units just sitting around here doing nothing. This is well played by Profeta. Inkigark turns rolls in. He does get this property, so that's the price of the engagement. He will have a slight income lead right now, and he is capping this harbor, and I don't think there's anything Profeta can do to stop him from getting it. But Inkigark is not letting up. His mechs are actually arriving now and actually getting some nice hits off. Look at this. He's protecting his harbor. He definitely wants to get it. Yeah, those mechs are actually putting in some work here. Nice. Go mechs. Go mechs. And of course, what Inkigark has to be careful about right now is the fuel of his bombers. 31 fuel on this one, 40 fuel on this one. Bombers burn 5 fuel per day just to stay afloat. And that comes in addition to their movement. So that fuel can run out really quickly, which is why Inkigark want to get some black boats out so he can refuel those bombers. Profeta's turn. He goes on the counterattack. He has 2 Neo tanks ready to move, but they have to waste their turn attacking mechs, which is a little unfortunate. It's not really what he wants to be hitting right now, but it's a strong counterattack from Profeta right now. He's doing a good job defending against mechs. Inkugork not doing as much damage as he wants to do early on here. Love how he uses the transport to boost his mechs. Every little movement counts. I mean, mechs move too, so if you boost them, you're essentially increasing their move by 50%, which is a pretty big deal. Profeta also has to build some fighters here. So many air units on this particular map. Very, very important. Inkugork successfully captures the harbor, so Profeta was not able to hold on to that. That means that Inkugork can now start building landers, and this is what he definitely wants to do. Combines the tank, interesting. He wants to build a lander, he wants to send the lander over here and start producing tanks in his base and ferry it over. This is his game plan. And looks like both players are just pivoting all their forces to the north right now. Look at Inkugork though. His second Max Blast is almost ready, but his bombers are critically low on fuel. He needs to get some black boats out, ladies and gentlemen. He really is either some black boats or some APCs. Otherwise, his aircraft will just crash. It's actually a pretty big deal. Day 14 rolls in. Profeta, once again, just playing defense. He just needs to play defense. He needs to be careful. He's 3 Neo tanks ready to go, but they die quick to max bombers. So, look, Profeta's using his black boats to refuel his transports. Inkugork should definitely do the same. But you can see, Profeta is scared now, because he knows that Max Blast is right around the corner. And for Inkugork, the next Max Blast is going to be an important one. He needs to do damage, because they're both... Actually, Profeta's kind of ahead right now in terms of values. Ahead of value and unit count. Inkugork is ahead of income, but in high funds, that doesn't matter as much. Because an 8k income deficit in standard is huge. In high funds, it's not that big a deal. And considering half of your army can vanish in 1 power, the income, you can fight while at an income deficit and you'll still do okay. There comes the black boat out from Inkugork. He knows he needs it. I'm sure he would have... Actually, he's max. He doesn't want to build carriers. But if he was Drake, he probably would have built a carrier to create a no-fly zone around here to prevent his opponent from flying in here. But look at the ball of units, Inkugork. He's just clumping everything up, making it impossible for Profeta to go in here. This is perfect defense. This is what Inkugork is known for. He's playing an aggressive CO in max, but Inkugork's defense is just rock solid. Look at the formation. He has all the infantry units on the front, transport copters, which aren't that needed for the battle, his less expensive tanks on the front lines, and then he has all the high value units in the back, preventing Profeta from swooping in and getting a couple of nice trades. You don't want to attack into an Inkugork wall. I tried once, I hurt my face. Not recommended. Don't do it. But of course, the beauty of Profeta playing Drake is that he doesn't need to attack. All he needs to do is play safely, and I'm wondering if this may be a mistake from Inkugork right here. He doesn't want to play passive, of course. He's just charging up for that Max Blast. He knows it's going to be important. There is the lander. I was waiting for that. He needs to get that lander over there. And this is actually, I think, if we take a look at the movement of this lander, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, even with Drake, this lander wouldn't be able to reach the shoal in 1 turn. And once it reaches the shoal, it will bounce back and forth between here. And it can take 2 tanks with each trip, which is a big deal. That turns that normally pretty useless base into a very valuable one. But Inkugork showing remarkable patience here. He's just preparing. He's preparing for the strike. And again, just look at that impeccable formation that he has. Infantry units in front, valuable units in the back. There is no opportunity for Profeta to attack here. And both players are actually closing in on their unit cap now, I think. Look at that. Look at that wall of mechs. My goodness, you don't see that a lot in high funds. But oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, the next attack is going to be huge. Profeta now has 2 mega tanks. 2 mega tanks. And you definitely want mega tanks against max. A second black boat comes out from Inkugork here. He needs repairs and he knows he needs it. So he's using those black boats to refuel his air units. And look at that, he's inching ever closer. He knows the next Max Blast is the crucial one. He needs to wipe Profeta off the board with it. But Profeta can't really cede any more ground, otherwise he risks losing 2 more properties to Inkugork. So he has to make a stand here. He can't pull back anymore. He knows that the Max Blast is coming. He places his Mega Tanks on the front lines, hoping that they'll absorb most of the attack from Inkugark. Day 18 rolls in. Now Inkugark is fetching his Mega Tanks with his lander, and with the bombers refueled, he's ready to have them move out. I like that he hasn't killed his cruiser yet. That's pretty funny. But once again, showing remarkable patience. Day 18 hasn't popped his Max Blast yet. We know that the Max Blast that comes will be huge. By the way, cruisers can attack black boats. In that way, they are like dual strike. They can't attack any other naval units, but they can attack black boats. I thought that was kind of funny. And Profeta here actually sending some units in, sending a Mega Tank in. And I think one of the reasons he's doing this is he kind of wants Inkugark to kill his Mega. This is a feint right here. You may think, oh my god, is he sacking the Mega Tank? No, he's almost at unit cap. He's on 49 units. I think the unit cap is 50 or 60, I don't remember. But he wants Inkugark to actually attack his Mega Tank, because if he does, he'll almost have a Typhoon ready. And if he can pop a Typhoon next turn, before Inkugark does his push, he actually wins. So this is beautifully played by Profeta. Let's see if Inkugark takes the bait and destroys the Mega. Or if he leaves it alone. I have a feeling he's going to leave it alone. Look, using the lander now to transport 2 Mega Tanks. Oh my god, the next Max Blast is going to be huge, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be huge. Yeah, Inkugark not taking the bait. He's like, no, buddy. No, I'm not going to take that bait. That's obvious bait. Nice bait, mate. I'm Drake. I'm not going to fall for bait. Naval reference, you know? Attacks. He continues to attack the block bot every turn to drain some funds. That's funny. And yeah, Profeta is at unit cap right now, so he's sending a couple units in, just serving them up to Inkugark on a platter, saying, please, come on, kill the tank, kill the battlecopter. You know you want to. You know you want to. Just give me that Typhoon. Give me that Typhoon, baby. I want that Typhoon, baby. Give me the Typhoon. Neither player doing anything. Boom! Max Blast! Oh, lordy, 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 lord. I think it's ready for Inkugark to attack. Here we go. Bomber. Oh my god. Look at the damage. Look at the damage. Oh, yes. He has to do a lot of damage here. Artillery goes down. One-shots the mech. Neo-tank comes in. Bye-bye to the artillery. Bomber comes in. Kills the Neo-tank. He's going full balls to the walls here. He needs to kill Profeta. This is the Max Blast that will decide the game. He needs to do a lot of damage here. If he doesn't kill Profeta with this push, the Typhoon will wreck him. What's worrying about this, though, is that Profeta still has 3 healthy Mega Tanks in the top, and he still has 2 fighters, which will be able to kill Max Bombers on the next turn. I'm thinking this might not be enough damage, ladies and gentlemen. It's a devastating push, but I don't know if it's enough. I don't know if it's enough. I mean, if we look at the value that Inkugark has right now, 452,000 to 300,000, almost 500k. He's 200k ahead, but that Typhoon will do at least 200k of damage. It's going to be pretty insane, actually. It's going to be pretty insane. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's coming. Typhoon! Oh! Let's watch that again. 496,000. Down to... Oh my god, that is over 100,000 damage done by global damage alone. 100,000 funds just washed away. I guess Inkugark can wave goodbye to his troops, and here comes the counterattack. And Profeta still has a very large army left. I think this is bad news for Inkugark. Doesn't matter when all your units are damaged. Extra firepower starts mattering less and less. His healthy fighter still got a lot of anti-airs. Damn. The Mega Tanks are rolling in as well. He still has a lot of healthy Mega Tanks and a solid defense from Profeta right now. Fighters, battlecopters, tanks coming out, using the transport to boost some infantry. Continuing to attack the black boat. I like it. It's very cute. Just chipping away at Inkugark's funds. And Profeta is suddenly ahead again. 346,000 to 278,000. Inkugork does have a unit count lead, but that isn't that good when you're up against global damage, because the higher your unit count, the more damage you take. In fact, there are a lot of people who combined their units together just for this reason. But let's see what Inkugork does, using his 1 HP fighter to block a little bit. He won't let up. He knows he needs to kill Profeta. He can't pull back. He cannot pull back. He needs to attack. But you can see, like, the steam is running out of his engine. The gas is leaking out of the tank. The oil is draining from the engine. Like, his push is significantly weaker right now. He's not letting up, but Profeta's not taking as much damage as he would have won. Whoa! Max Battleship! Inkugork builds a Max Battleship! Ladies and gentlemen, the world's best Advanced Force player just built a Max Battleship. Why did he do it? I don't know. Guess he wants to control this particular area. Prevent the mega tanks from rolling in, maybe? Peculiar choice from Inkugork right now. Sigmax Battleship. Let's go. Day 21 rolls in. And both players, I'd say, are pretty even. But of course, Inkugork has that Max Blast almost ready. Profeta's definitely not getting any global damage before that hits. Although he is building up his power meter pretty quickly. Could maybe pop a Tsunami? Is that a possibility? Maybe? Oh my god, this is an absolute slugfest. These two are just duking it out, beating the hell out of each other. But Inkugork, ladies and gentlemen, he has a Max Blast. And he pops it. Ooh, baby. Here we go. Third Max Blast, ladies and gentlemen. This is the last Max Blast he'll get. If Profeta's not dead by the third Max Blast, he's probably never going to die. Inkugork has to kill, and oh, that's a beautiful Mega Tank hit. Oh my god, this firepower is insane. Look at this beautiful attack. Inkugork is smashing his opponent, and the battleship deals damage to the anti-air. You love to see it. The Max Battleship. Oh, that is wonderful. And Inkugork leaving the infantry inside the black boat to protect it from the global damage. A tiny but cute gesture. But, ladies and gentlemen, Profeta is still standing. And here comes the third Typhoon. And this one's gonna start to really hurt Inkugork. Look at him. Down to 200k unit value. And the fuel on his units. Look at the fuel of his units. 7 fuel left on this tank. 7 fuel left on the mega tank. Inkugork, you need APCs, my friend. Look at that battlecopter, 14 fuel. These units have been hit by 3 fuel drains at this point, and they are running out of gas. Drake just coming in there, stealing all your fuel. I'm wondering if Profeta might be able to hold here. He's doing a beautiful job defending against Inkugork's onslaught. How will this go? Will Inkugork be able to finish him off? Day 23 rolls in, and it's still not clear which player is winning. Inkugork does have an income lead. He has a unit count lead, but Profeta is ahead of him in value right now. Of course, 50k to 38k, that's where you'll start to feel it a little bit. Inkugork has secured a lot of properties, which means that he's in a good position, even though most of his units are injured and running out of fuel. But now he's using his forward cities that he captured to his advantage, using them to refuel his units and strengthen them for the next push. And now Inkugork's income advantage is such that I think he can actually sit back and resupply his army without fear. Because, of course, you have to keep in mind, the Tsunami is pretty expensive right now. The Typhoon too. It's a 60% extra fatigue. So the next global damage not going to come in quite yet. Inkugork. Oh. Oh. Well, okay. Profeta just resigns. That caught me by surprise. Oh. I guess he felt like he couldn't fight back here. I mean, looking at the battlefield, it's clear that Inkugark has the big advantage. 50k to 38k, 37 units to 24. I feel like maybe Profeta could have held on, but I am actually wondering if this tournament had a day limit. Don't know if I can see the rules anywhere here in the replay viewer, but if I remember correctly, I think that this cup had a 30-day time limit. That may be why Profeta resigned. It's not like he's going to be able to take like 6 properties away from Inkugark over the span of 7 days. So I think that may be one of the reasons why he resigned. I think if this was a global league match without a time limit, I think Profeta could have kept fighting here and he would have gotten at least 1 or 2 more Typhoons, and he may have been able to make something happen with that. Difficult to say, but I guess when you're up against Inkugark and you feel like you're slightly behind, that does make it very hard to continue fighting. But my goodness, what an absolute slugfest these two had. Beautiful defense by Profeta, beautiful attacking by Inkugark. It's rough, man, to attack into 3 Typhoons and still come out on top. That requires some serious skill. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, happy 17th of May. I hope you guys enjoyed this replay commentary. I will see you guys next time. Have fun, and bye-bye. See ya.